Hey, friend. Welcome to today's episode. This one is close to my heart because it's about something that I have lived through and something that God has completely redeemed. So, we're going to talk about compound trauma, what that can look like in parenting, and how the pain that we never healed from can quietly shape the way that we show up for our kids. And we're also going to dive into something a lot deeper, which is how rejection can actually start as early as the womb and what it looks like to identify and heal from that. So, in this episode, I get to sit down with my daughter and share the story of when I was 17, pregnant, scared, and really how God just turned what once felt like shame into redemption. So, my hope is that this conversation brings light and healing and hope to you, especially if motherhood hasn't looked or felt the way you expected it to. So before we start, I just want to remind you that this episode we're going to talk about teen pregnancy and abortion. So if that is tender for you, then take your time. You might even just want to skip this episode. But we're here to show how God meets us right in the middle of our pain and rewrites our story. So let's jump into today's episode. Hold on, wait, I forgot to tell you to go subscribe to my podcast. If you want to stay up to date with all my weekly new episodes, and if you just like this content, or maybe you just want to support me, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. My podcast is available on iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube. Thanks for subscribing, and let's jump in. Hello, welcome to today's episode where I get to have my daughter with me, and I'm going to share about the time where I was 17 years old, young and pregnant, afraid, and how God really just came in and changed that story, changed me. And here we are 19 years later, and I have my daughter with me, one of my best friends, and my biggest blessing. God redeemed that story. So if you have ever carried shame, regret, or disappointment around motherhood, even during your pregnancy, I pray that this story brings hope, healing, and freedom to you.
Where were you when you first found out? Were you in the bathroom?
You asked if I was in the bathroom because I was in the bathroom. Did I tell you that before?
No, it's just usually girls find out in the bathroom.
When I first found out I was pregnant, me and my friends, we actually I told them that I thought I was. And so we went to Whataburger to take the pregnancy test.
I think you did tell me that.
When I first found out, the excitement was there in the beginning. I remember having thoughts of feeling like I wanted a baby, but then very quickly fear took over. It was the combination of not wanting to be a mother, not knowing how to be a mother. I was 17 and I was not in a good place. So very quickly, the feelings of not wanting to be a mom took over. I think my biggest fear at that time was the shame around pregnancy, about being raised in a Christian household and getting pregnant. There's a lot of shame around that in general. I think that was one of the biggest emotions I can recall feeling.
Did you know that you wanted an abortion as soon as you found out?
Well, I think that came later after the excitement went away and the shame came in. And from there, I decided that I wanted an abortion because I didn't want to be a mom. And I also realized that I was going to have to do it by myself. And I didn't want to do it by myself.
Mm. What stopped you when you were thinking about it? What ultimately stopped you from getting the abortion?
When I first thought about getting the abortion, I researched it a lot. I remember in the state of Texas, you had to be 18 to have an abortion.
I remember you saying you had to get your parents involved if you wanted to.
Yes. In Texas, you had to be 18, and if you weren't 18, you had to have your parents.
And you knew they weren't going for it.
Oh, yeah. Just thinking back how grateful I am that I had parents that followed their convictions.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that I couldn't even go to them and ask them to take me to have an abortion because I already knew they would say no.
Yeah.
Like, that was no question in my mind at all that they would be like, I knew they wouldn't even think about it. Like, it wouldn't even be a consideration. It would be 100% no.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, just being the age I am looking back, I'm like, wow, that saved your life.
Yeah.
That and the law in place at that time saved your life because I was determined.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't going to be told no. I was going to travel to a different state. And I do not remember why I decided to give up. There was something that stopped me from going through with it. I think I got discouraged thinking of all I would have to go through to travel out of state and what that would take.
Mm-hmm.
And so I gave up.
When you found out that I was a girl, you said that you were disappointed. Why was that?
Yes. I was so disappointed. I remember this. In my mind, I wanted the boy first to protect his younger sister.
Yeah, I remember you telling me.
Yes. And so having a girl first in my mind was like, no, I wanted her to be protected by her older brother. I got really mad when I found out you were a girl. Yeah.
That's so funny because I really want a girl. I don't want a boy.
Really?
I feel like I would better bond with a girl. And I think it's probably because of us. I think that's why.
Aww.
Yeah. Because all I can think about when I think of a child is me with my daughter. And I don't even really want a second child, but it's going to probably
You're going to have a girl first.
inevitable. You think?
Yeah, you are.
I hope, Mom. I hope.
You're going to. You are.
Okay. You think?
Yes.
Why do you say that?
I just have that feeling.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I hope you're right. We'll know in a few years when I'm married.
When you're married.
And what was it like raising me at that age?
So, I talked about this in my last episode. If you haven't watched my first episode, go back and watch that after you're done with this. But I remember raising you. So there's a few key moments I remember when.
I'm sorry, which one? Sorry. I was trying to hold it in. Okay, hold on. Ready? What was it like raising me at that age?
So I remember getting the ultrasound, and I remember hearing the heartbeat for the first time. And I remember looking over at my mom, and she was crying. And I remember thinking to myself, why is she crying? Looking back at that moment now, I realized that my excitement was gone. Like, I had no emotional attachments.
Mm-hmm.
I was so emotionally shut down. In fact, I remember when you were born, not feeling the emotional connection. The first Christmas I spent with you, and I remember taking pictures of you, and I put this bow on your head, and I remember it was just me and you, and I remember being like, okay, like, what now? I remember feeling empty. I remember feeling the emptiness and being like, what do I do with this child? I didn't know how to love you. I didn't have it inside of me. I didn't have that love inside of me, that thing that bonds us. It wasn't there. I just remember thinking, is this the way this is supposed to feel? I remember being a little confused about it. I was questioning, like, is this what this is supposed to feel like? Because I felt like it was supposed to be different, and I didn't know why that wasn't there for me. Yeah. And then just even raising you, I remember the first time that I played with y'all, you and your brother, and being told through some parenting books I was reading how good it was for parent and child playtime together. And that was something that I wasn't aware of. For whatever reason, I didn't know that you were supposed to play with your children. So I remember playing this game with y'all where I would run around like a vampire and try to bite y'all. And y'all loved it. And y'all were like, bite me, bite me. And I remember thinking, like, wow, they love this. Like, this works. So I look back and I see where God was just like leading me on that journey of healing. And it would, and he showed me how broken I was by revealing to me how, um, through my pursuit of wanting to be a better parent, that's where it all started. I was like, I want to be a good parent to my kids. Like, how do I do this? And that's where God was really like leading me on that journey of healing myself. So that way I could be a good parent to y'all. Yeah. Um, so raising y'all was part of my healing journey. Yeah. Hey, I want to pause for a minute and just explain what's really happening here. What I was describing, that feeling of being disconnected from your kids, wanting to feel joy, but not being able to, or struggling to show up emotionally the way you want to, that's what compound trauma can look like in parenting. Compound trauma, sometimes called complex trauma, it happens when we go through many painful or stressful experiences over time. It often starts earlier on in life and pile up through the years. And when those wounds pile up, they shape how we respond to the world and especially to the people that we love most. In moms, it can show up as shutting down when emotions get big, snapping when you're really just afraid, or staying so busy that you don't have to feel what's underneath. Yeah, I know that probably hits home to so many people because believe it or not, this is a very common type of trauma and a very common response to it as well. It can make it hard to bond, it can make it hard to rest, or to simply just be present, even though your heart deeply wants to. So, if this sounds familiar, I just want to say this, that nothing is wrong with you. Your heart just learned to protect you. It built walls because it didn't feel safe. And now, with awareness and God's help, you can start to rebuild those connections. One safe moment, one honest conversation, one small act of love at a time. All right, so let's get back into this story. I believe y'all were God's gift to me, and I wouldn't change that. There's so much transformation that took place through God's grace and mercy and just showing me. Like I remember one day I was like, God, y'all were, I don't know, middle school maybe? No, Darian was not middle school. He was elementary still. And I remember asking God, I was like, God, how do I get the me out of my kids? Because I saw things going on in y'all's life. I was like, man, it's like they're just like me. And he said, he was very clear and he said, you need to work on you first and your kids will follow. He said, you work on you and I, the Lord, will work on your kids.
Yeah. I think subconsciously I and I know we should be asking what would Jesus do, but I do think about what you would do because we look up to you and I look up to you more than anybody. So I think if you were more worried about us, I would have looked more. I feel like I wouldn't have looked to you. I would have just kept on, in my ways and down that rabbit hole of, the toxicness and the immaturity and all that. But instead, you gradually just became more of a light. My focus shifted to, just like Jesus says, to worry about our flaws and all the things going around us. We have to follow him. And I'm not saying you're Jesus, but it's more of it's like, it's kind of in comparison.
Hmm. That makes sense. We're supposed to model Jesus to our family, to our kids. We first get an idea of who God is through our parents' love for us.
Yeah.
When it's modeled correctly, we form an image of who God is through our parents. Sometimes you can get a negative view of God because you have a negative view of your parents. Sometimes you can get a good view of God because of the goodness in your parents. Maybe you got different views of God based on how I parented you, some good views of God, and then maybe some views that didn't reflect Him because I wasn't able to show up in the fullness of God's love in those areas
How did God meet you during those years?
of parenting. God met me in a lot of ways. And one of the things I remember the Lord saying, hey, you're focusing a lot on your career right now. And I want you to focus more on your kids. This was after I rededicated my life to the Lord. He showed me this time you have with them, mothering them, and really focusing on that and setting other things aside. Because focusing on your career can take a lot. It takes a lot of your time, it takes a lot of your emotional energy. And God just giving me a peace about setting that down and just focusing. I'm pouring out my energy into y'all. God was like, I'm going to provide. So don't worry about that. I'm going to provide for you. And right now, I just want you to focus on pouring your energy into your kids. That gave me such peace. He met me in that area of just feeling like I needed to strive so I could provide better opportunities for y'all. And he was like, actually, no, you want to provide them things that are superficial, that really are not going to fulfill them in a way as just being present and showing up emotionally for them.
Was this when we moved to Mimi's?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think before that, I was putting all my time and energy into hustling, having to build a career, having to be successful. And the Lord just kind of sat me down and was like, I actually want you to use these years with them, putting your energy into them and less into trying to be successful.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was one of the many ways. Another way was God really met me and showed me how to love y'all through y'all's rebellion.
And yeah, you had a lot of patience.
Yes. He showed me how to parent y'all. I did not know what I was doing. And if it wasn't for God, we would all be super messed up.
Yeah.
And it's like the more I released and let go of that mentality that I had to do everything right and that I had to be a perfect parent, I just remember so much grace. I remember him correcting me when I would mess up and being like, go apologize.
Yeah.
That was so new to me. I didn't know parents could apologize to their kids.
Yeah.
That was like one of those aha moments from like, oh, parents don't have to have it all together. And this is a learning journey for me. And it's okay to communicate with your kids that I'm not perfect. So, one of the areas that God met me in is through not only my own healing, but in healing in you specifically, because He showed me that you were dealing with a spirit of rejection. He showed me that part of that was because I rejected you when I was pregnant with you. One of the ways I rejected you was through not wanting you and by wanting an abortion. Another way I reject you is through the disappointment that I had when I found out that you were a girl. And so he showed me that you were dealing with that through some of the struggles that you were dealing with. He had previously taught me that that I needed to talk to you about it. And I needed to repent to you for rejecting you. And then I needed to walk you through that healing. And so I approached you that day in the car Do you remember that day?
Yeah. Did I start crying?
Yeah. What do you remember about that conversation?
I remember my guardian, my caretaker, the one I was spending most of my time with, was Nanny. I had told you that I thought that having Nanny was enough and I didn't need you. And I was telling you, we were talking about how I felt rejected by you in my early years. At that moment in time, I thought that since I had Nanny to take care of me and to pour into me while you weren't, that I was okay. And then that was when you told me that it shouldn't have been Nanny. It should have been you. And that made me feel, I don't know, maybe it was just, because I immediately started crying.
Yeah.
Because it was just like an emotional breakthrough or a spiritual breakthrough of the lie that I held on to when there was more to the story that Jesus needed me to know.
That's good.
You established that wasn't okay for you. You were going through things and you weren't there for us as much as you should have been. You were providing for us, but not there emotionally like you could have and should have been. I think you just established that verbally. I remember you apologizing. And I guess I just had a new love or more of a love for you.
So you walked away with that conversation with like feeling like
maybe just a little bit a weight off of my shoulders. And like the beginning of a healing journey. I think I felt more of like it's deeper than what I think it is when it comes to my problems, because I know that rejection came onto me, so that stems in a lot of how I see things and how I feel rejected easily. I think that just put a reasoning behind everything. And when you have a reasoning behind everything, you can move forward.
So it sounds like before that conversation, you saw life or your problems like, this is just me.
Yeah.
And then after our conversation, you realized that it was not a you problem, it was a spiritual issue.
Yeah.
Hey, can I pause for just a quick second? I have a question. If you're listening to this, does any of this sound familiar to you? Maybe you're listening and you're realizing that you've wrestled with some of these same fears or anxieties or even regret during pregnancy. Maybe there was moments when you didn't feel ready or you didn't want to be pregnant, and that still carries a little bit of shame. Or maybe you even notice rejection or abandonment showing up in you or your children. Things like feeling unseen or left out, lonely, afraid of rejection, isolation. If any of that hits home, or even if you're just curious and want to know if you or your children might be dealing with a spirit of rejection and abandonment, then type resources in the comments below, because I put together a few tools to help you identify those patterns and start walking through what healing actually looks like. So whether it's for you, or maybe it's for your child, just go ahead and comment resources below and I'll make sure you get them. Okay, now back to the podcast. Did you notice a difference in our relationship after that conversation?
I think at that age, of course I still remember it. It's like a canon event in my life.
A canon event?
Meaning it's something that you remember forever. It's a Gen Z term.
Canon event.
Or not a traumatic experience, but it's something it's a sentimental moment.
Yeah. I like canon event.
Why do you say, okay. Just say canon event. Canon event.
Canon?
Canon event. Canon event.
Canon and event.
You're saying, okay. You're saying the E. You just need to say event.
Canon. Oh, event? Event. It's an event. I'm pronunciating it?
Okay, now you're saying pronunciate. It was a canon event. But I think at that age, it just kept rolling. I think I just started looking at things like how, because I know that when I feel rejected, I get really obsessive about it.
Mm,
I think I just looked at it as a I don't blame myself or something's wrong with me
mm,
instead of it was my environment that I lived in when I was young.
that's good. Okay. Looking back now, how do you think the conversation changed the way you see God after that?
When he had told me that it shouldn't have been that way, and I know that the story might sound like why did she cry? But when you told me that it shouldn't have been that way, but when you told me that and you told me that that was God revealing to me that it's not my fault that the way that I think sometimes, the way that I am sometimes, and how I feel rejected easily, that it made me see him as it made me have more respect and a love for him to show me that and it come from you, especially from you. Like I understand maybe a therapist telling me that from you telling me that you were wrong and that it should have been you instead of Nanny. That was I was thankful for it to you and God.
Wow, that's huge. Yeah, because it was almost like God was saying, like, I love you so much. This is the life I want for you. And it's almost like he was revealing to you that he has something better. And what you had it was good, but it wasn't his best for you.
Yeah.
It was almost like he was saying, I want to restore that. And I want you to know that I'm putting something together that is what God wanted for you.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
so, our relationship now, you're 19, about to be 20, is so different than
Next month.
she's about to turn 20 next month. It's so different. What do you notice about how different our relationship is now compared to when it was its unhealthiest? Because there was a time where me and you we didn't get along very well. Yeah. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think what I love the most is that I feel like you are my safe space. And as children, as toddlers, as infants, the mother is the safe space. And then we grow out of that. Usually you see daughters and mothers butt heads a lot. But I love that you are still my safe space. You are still what I hold on to and who I look for in the room, even as a 19-year-old. I think it'll be like that for the rest of our lives. I love that I can tell you anything. And you really taught me how to handle situations and regulate my emotions, which was one of the most crucial skills to have in this world. And I think that me knowing that I got that from you helps me have a more of a respect and a love for you because I'm so happy that I'm like that and I'm continuing to grow. So I'm glad that our relationship cultivated that type of I don't know the word, but I'm glad that our relationship we're comfortable enough to learn things from each other. So I think that's what I also love about it. I love that out of everybody, out of all of my generation, I got to have it.
That's such a blessing to hear you say that because from when I was so emotionally shut down and just the mom shame from knowing that I wanted to be a better mom to now where I see how God healed me so we can have a great relationship is just like, wow, like this is the biggest blessing ever. And even when I think about who you are as a person, and then as a daughter, I get to have that in my life. Like God was like this beautiful creature that I put in your womb. This is going to be one of your biggest blessings. If I would have known that back then, there would have been no question. And I think that is one of the reasons why I want to make these podcasts. People need to know that children are a blessing, children are from God, and the parent and child relationship is so important to God. It's so important. And we parent the way God parents us, and that's what He wants to teach us as parents, to parent our children the way God parents us. And I I look at our relationship and I'm like, wow, we've come so far. Like we've gotten through some rough situations. And to hear you say that, it's like, wow, like God did that. Only God could do that. Only God could take such a broken person like who I was and develop such a wonderful relationship out of that between me and you. Yeah, it's just amazing to see. So, how do you think our story can give hope to other mothers and daughters?
I think it can. I think it can show because there's more of a like not a stigma, but it's moms and daughters. You see more of moms and daughters butting heads, so it'll give them hope to see that it is possible. You just have to work with it. You have to work with God.
Yeah.
And I think our relationship and our story can shed a light on the problems that we had because we weren't perfect from the beginning.
Yeah.
I think that makes it better.
Yeah. It shows how much you can grow, though.
Yeah.
It shows how much, like, something so hard can actually become something so much more beautiful.
And it takes time, and it takes patience, and it takes a lot of love.
Yeah. That not giving up.
Yeah.
That not like, because we've been through a lot of arguments and things that where if we were like, you know what, like just forget it, I'm done.
Yeah.
Like we could have went our own separate ways, but we were just determined to keep our relationship.
Yeah. And I feel like it can show moms that it's okay to be wrong and that they can be vulnerable with each other. Like that's a thing still.
Yeah. What would you say to moms that are pregnant but considering an abortion? Maybe they're afraid and they don't know if they'll be a good enough mom. What would you say?
I feel like if you have even an inkling of wanting to be a good mom, you will. I've seen a lot of moms become a whole different, it's a whole 180 transformation, and they will do everything to make sure that their child is okay. If you want that, then you will have that.
Yeah.
And I know that it's hard, but I think that there is always light at the end of the tunnel. And I think that there's always a way out of the storm. And Jesus is the answer all the time.
That's
every time.
Absolutely. I want people to know, I want moms to, if you're pregnant and thinking motherhood isn't for you, or maybe you're already a mom and you're thinking you don't want any more children for whatever reason, you don't have to do it alone. Even if there's no one else in this world to support you, God is your provider. God is your maker. He can turn any situation into a blessing. At that time, I didn't think I would be a good mom. I didn't know anything about mothering. To sit here today with my 19-year-old daughter and see what a blessing it is to be the mother of these two wonderful kids of mine in my life. It's like, man, I would not trade that for the world. I wouldn't trade that for the world. Thank you for doing this with me.
Of course.
Hey, before we wrap up, I just want to say, if any part of today's conversation touched something deep in you, please know this. You're not alone. The disconnection, the fear, the shame, none of it defines you. Rejection and abandonment do not get the final word over your life. God does. He specializes in taking the very places that hurt the most and turning them into places of healing. So if you're realizing that some of what we shared sounds familiar, maybe you struggle to feel wanted or noticed, or you notice patterns of pulling away or overgiving just to feel safe, then I've created something that can help you start healing from that. So just type the word resources in the comments below, and I will send you over my rejection and abandonment healing kit. It's filled with some simple tools and reflection questions to help you identify those patterns and begin the healing process with God's guidance. So if this resonates with you, comment resources below, and let's start this journey of healing together. All right, I'll see you on the next podcast.